Wait, so I have a question real quick.
Yes.
Do I get paperwork or am I just like
No, you do.
voluntold and like I don't get a choice?
Well,
Your mom has to sign.
You are told and
Your mom
really
has
kind
to
of don't
sign.
get a choice, but
I still get the paperwork.
yeah,
Okay.
you still get the paperwork.
Oh, they brought me the roll again.
Have Naomi take a roll.
I don't know everybody's name.
I'll do it.
Oh, what's your name? You're,
That's my asked to do it, and then
oh, I do know that.
here, and she goes, and I was like, and I didn't drop it because
Rebecca.
I was like,
Who's Rebecca then?
and I went, her.
I get that all the time.
So who in the world has been hiding up
But when she came in,
So it wasn't funny, but it was
dude,
so
I started talking to her, and she kind of
Yeah, I'm
like I was
actually, like,
strange, and I realized I was talking to the wrong person.
She refused, like, she won't let me put my passport because she has her initial, and she said she need a distinct.
And Tom said, he goes, I'm gonna pull up and have cameras.
But I mean,
No, they don't. We can totally, we went to Mississippi one time, like, we were just driving by,
okay.
and then we were like, let's stop at a gas station for like snacks and like a break and stuff.
She would,
And
right?
then we were like going into the gas station, and then this one, she was so sweet. This one really plump big black lady, she was like, sweetie, sugar, and I was like, yes, let's go. And she's like, are you on 2 ears? And I couldn't understand what she was saying. And she was asking if we were twins.
Right.
And I was like looking at her, I was like, what are you saying? I can understand her. And so I said, no, we're twins.
And then
You
I
look
fell asleep.
like
So I realized that the next morning, and then I didn't see you the next
It
morning.
don't take much to confuse me.
And then I thought you were asleep last night.
You're just talking to us.
You going actually to eighth grade?
didn't see each other.
No, not at all.
That is sending me for a while. I thought you were saying to Sarah, listen to her. That's on
She's
you.
like a foot taller than me.
That's okay.
Actually, you want to go search for your history. You left me on my first now.
Really?
So it was just sitting the whole time over there, and I was like,
And I was like,
What else you
I think
got?
she said, but then I said,
I mean, you can't even fill out your permission slips, and you're worried about what I'm doing? I mean, at least I admit it, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't look fill out forms, right? You know, like, name, date. All I want is, what's your first date and last?
That was
name?
excessive.
I need that for your form.
Did you work last night?
where's she working?
I had a really
Neighbors.
good pizza catch yesterday. It was really cool.
Oh yeah?
Like,
She works at Neighbors.
Where's that at?
No, you can
It's,
fly.
Like just up the road.
There's no communication.
They were by like the river.
See, what I said?
Is Kelsey here?
I know.
Kelsey's not here.
You know, like we
Kelsey's
started-
not here.
It's
like that. Give this to Kevin. Give this to Kevin. Kevin's like, your copy's so good.
That is, I really.
Home Alone?
Yeah. No, I tried to watch that the other day. I was like, how fucking should I be? So I watched both Home Alone.
That is the
Anyway.
I am a big fan of Home Alone. Home Alone is a great film. I used to watch it. I was like, I have like a memory of me watching it on like cheap, like you know those DVD players you take like in the car.
Yeah.
Like on one of those in like my grandma's guest room. Someone else used to watch it with me. And they were all watching other TVs.
Yeah, mine was her.
So they don't have like any
Okay,
workers.
where
So
did
like
you go,
it's usually
what,
more
sophomore or
like
junior
drive
high
time.
school?
Well,
Hang on,
just sitting
I know this
behind the
question.
counter waiting for people and just
You're
on
a
their
sophomore.
phones. And it's like,
I didn't do it.
I will go to.
I didn't do it though.
Permission slip form. All you gotta do is lay it in front of your dad, he signs it and you're done.
yeah, like
You
they
can't
said
fill out your own
nobody.
form, I mean, like, Kylie.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's this like.
Okay, but Sarah also hasn't turned in her form yet either.
But
Wow.
she's just a baby. You can't make her a baby.
Wow.
She's in 7th grade, not even 13 yet. You can't get mad at her.
It's an S and then the N.
Yeah.
I don't know what your middle name is, what is it?
Buckwheat is.
So it's S L
Did he say buckwheat? I think, yeah. Sarah
They're from
buckwheat
Georgia.
mix.
Georgia.
Where were you born?
Kansas.
Are you old?
Oh.
That's what Only thing that Kansas came out was Wayward Son. Carry on my wayward son. Carry on.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started this morning. Before we get into our lesson, I've got a few announcements for you guys real quick. First, Kayla, giving announcements here. So we're getting into summer. So seniors, Faith, our senior recognition service will be May 23rd. Okay, and we will be doing a lunch this year too. Okay, so
No, there are 5 other ones.
there are 5 other ones. They're just not here.
Do you know anyone at the church?
It's Brennan, Kenny,
Oh,
I've been here forever.
I've been
Jeremy.
here since
I've
birth.
been here that before.
I know for a fact we've had conversations about how half the youth group is gone when 5th grade graduates.
Yes, Faith is not our only senior. She's just the only one here today.
Oh,
So we will be doing senior recognition service Sunday, May 23rd during the late service. If you have a cap and gown, make sure you wear it. And we will be doing lunch. All parents have been informed as to all that and been sent a letter. We will be doing a summer kickoff also the last Wednesday in May, which is May 26th. We're going to get like an inflatable water slide, and we're going to have hot dogs and hamburgers and chips, and we will be randomly giving away a few gift cards to like Chick-fil-A or stuff like that, all right? So, it's just going to be a big blowout to kick off our summer, okay? It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure when you guys come on the 26th, make sure you guys come in something that can get wet and something that is church appropriate that can get wet, okay? So, same rules that apply for like going to the swimming pool at summer camp. Make sure you guys wear that for the summer kickoff also. Okay. And then in summer we will be meeting for Wednesday night Bible study the first 2 Sundays in June, and then we won't have any more Wednesday night Bible study through the summer. Okay. Because after the first two Wednesdays, then we have mission trip. And then the week after that is the week that the baby is expected. So I won't be here for that. So on the 23rd, if you are involved with kids camp, if you're a kids camp worker, that's going to be like just a meeting training day for kids camp workers. So on June 23rd, that's all that'll be. Okay. While we're on the topic of summer, your forms for mission trip and summer camp, they do have to be signed and notarized. Now here's the blessing, okay? Both Jeannie and Edie are notaries. So I have some of y'all who have already turned in your forms, but they're not signed and notarized. So I will talk to Jeannie or Edie and see if they can stick around for a little bit. And if you would like to do that after late service, we can get that done, and then you don't have to worry about it, okay? Make sense?
What does that mean?
What does it mean? It means that a notary basically signs that they watched you sign it and that nobody signed for you.
And you're really you.
Yeah.
So we need your social security number, last 4 digits, and your birthday.
Your mother's maiden name.
Place you were born.
Just those 2 forms, I got you, dude. That's all I need.
So, so notary, what they just do, you can also take it to a UPS store. They do notary services. But here at the church, you can do it for free. I can't remember if it costs at UPS store or not. A notary, all they do is they stamp it and sign it that, yes, they watched you sign. And yes, you are you.
Pink and orange?
Yes.
And if we already turned them in, are you just gonna give it to them?
If you already turned it in, you can, because some of y'all turned it in, but y'all didn't sign, because it was double-sided, so y'all didn't sign the bottom or back where it said notary or whatever. You can get that done. Or, we can just have them sign off like, yeah, they signed it. Okay. But I have them all. They're not all. They haven't been sent off or anything like that. I have all the pink and orange copies that I've been given. And so if you need that done, let me know and we'll try and get that done for you guys after service. Then that's one less thing you have to worry about. Okay. All right. I think that is all the announcements that I've got for you guys this morning. And so we'll get into our lesson. Have you guys ever seen like trust fall fails? Yeah. Well, one of my favorite things is like whenever they tell a person like, okay, fall, and they fall forward instead of back. Have y'all seen that? That's the best. If you haven't, like, definitely like you can search that on YouTube and it's good for a good clean laugh. But my question to you guys is, we're going to be talking about how the church was sent to trust God, and so. My question to you guys this morning is, how does prayer demonstrate trust in God?
What's the question?
How does prayer demonstrate trust in God?
I mean, they say prayer is like, it's just talking with God like you would a friend. So if you really spend all this time talking to a friend that you don't trust in, or you don't put your trust in.
Yeah, for sure. We can be open and honest, like we talked about Wednesday night, right? Like we can be open and honest with God, in confessing, and like, would we be that with somebody that we didn't trust, right? I mean, obviously. What we're going to see is we're going to be in Acts chapter 12. We're going to be in verses 1 through 17. And what we're going to see in Acts 12 is that the church demonstrates their trust in God through fervent prayer. Prayer is one way we show that we know our lives are ultimately in God's hands and that we trust Him with our future.
Then.
Morning, guys. We're going to be in Acts chapter 12 this morning. And while you guys are turning there, seniors, those of you who just walked in, we're doing senior recognition service and lunch on May 23rd. Okay? That'll be during the late service, so at 10:30 in the morning. All right? We'll be doing the senior recognition service and the lunch after. Your parents have all the information. They have the form to fill out about plans after school and all of that too. Okay? So, all right. So, we're going to start in Acts 12. We're going to read verses 1 through 5 first. And again, remember, we're talking about how the church prayed and showed their trust in God. So, starting in verse 1. About that time, Herod, the king, laid violent hands on some who belonged to the church. He killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And when he saw that it pleased the Jews, he proceeded to arrest Peter also. This was during the days of unleavened bread. And when he had seized him, he put him in prison, delivering him over to 4 squads of soldiers to guard him, intending after the Passover to bring him out to the people. So Peter was kept in prison, but earnest prayer for him was made to God by the church. So what we see here is that both Jewish and Roman leaders had failed to stop an ever-increasing number of Christians. You can like read through that where in Acts there's this point where they have where this council in Jerusalem, they have this meeting and they talk about like, why are Jesus's followers still going so strong? Like, why are they like what happened? Like, we killed their leader. Like, why are they still going on? And because this wasn't the first time that they had encountered somebody who proclaimed himself as the Messiah. This wasn't the first time that it had happened. It happened before, and they even talk about it in that meeting. They're like, look, this happened before with this person, and like, we killed him, and his leaders dispersed, or his followers dispersed, and here we've put Jesus to death. Why have his followers not dispersed? And so we see that they had a hard time really quieting people following Jesus. And so Herod, who's king of Israel at this time, or king of Jerusalem at this time, decided to take matters into his own hands. And he starts going after these disciples of Jesus. Okay, not just like the lower followers or stuff, but like the actual disciples. And so he goes and he kills James, and he arrests Peter. And we see that like in this time, there was probably a lot of fear. You know, we don't. It's hard when we talk about topics like these. When we talk about like fears that Christians had in these days, or fears that Christians have in other parts of the country, because we don't fully experience, or in other parts of the world, we don't fully experience that here. We don't experience kind of the level of persecution that other Christians experience or experienced here in the U.S. And so sometimes it gets hard for us to like associate, or not like associate, but relate to that. But what we see is that back in this first century of the church, we see that there was heavy persecution awaiting the followers of Jesus. James was killed by the sword. Peter was arrested. We see Paul arrested many times. We see, we know that the only disciple that died of like old age and natural causes was John. You know, all the others were martyred. And so just imagine the fear that the early Christians must have been feeling. One of their most prominent leaders, one of the disciples of Jesus had been executed, and another was in prison awaiting the same fate. And so, with really nowhere else to turn, they didn't have any political power because they were all being persecuted. And so they didn't have any pull with any governments. And so with kind of this like spot of nowhere else to turn, they turn to the best place possible. And they lift up Peter in prayer to God. And they throw themselves upon the mercy and power of God. Their only hope is that God would make a way where there was no way. What are some unhealthy ways that we as Christians respond to crisis and difficulty? Or maybe just we as humans. You know, some people, unfortunately, they turn to alcohol and drugs. I mean, we all have like these vices that we turn to. You know, well, we've had a hard day, and so Kelsey used to tell me when Kelsey would like eat like just like super unhealthy, she would be like, I'm eating my feelings. Anybody ever eat your feelings? Yeah. Like you just sit down with like a tub of ice cream and just go because it just helps kind of everything feel better. Like we turn to so many things that are just finite. Some people, when things seem hard, they bury themselves in work because, man, that's what they can control. That's what they have control over. That's what they can handle. So they bury themselves in work. Or we binge a Netflix show or shows. And we just fall into this pattern where something hard comes up and we turn to this one specific thing that we think like, well, this is going to make me feel better. And then, we get to the end of that thing and we're like, well, now I'm done with that. And then we go back to, that didn't really help. We go back to thinking on that crisis or that difficulty. Sometimes when we face a crisis or difficulty, we'll get angry, we'll doubt God, we'll sulk and self-pity. And like I said, our tendency is to turn to unhealthy habits for a sense of control and comfort. When the best place that we can turn to is the same place that the church in the first century turned to, and it is God. When we sit in church and we know the answer, like how does prayer show that we can trust God? Well, we can go to God with anything that we have, any problem that faces us. But yet when the problems do face us, we don't go to Him. And I'm not just talking like you sit down in class and remember, oh yeah, I've got a test today and I forgot to study last night. I can certainly qualify, but also the times of like, God, I really want to live out my life that is honoring to you, but I don't want to be persecuted. I don't want to be ridiculed for it. And the church in Jerusalem shows us how to respond to crisis by turning to the God who reigns. When our lives are out of control, when everything seems like it's just spinning, and we can't handle anything, God is still in control. God still speaks through the storm. God still has the stars in His hands. God is still in the midst of everything and is still sovereign over everything. So let's find out what happened with Peter. Picking back up in Acts chapter 12, verse 6. It says, "Now when Herod was about to bring him out, on that very night, Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains, and sentries before the door were guarding the prison." Now it's important that Luke notes all of this, because they weren't taking any chances. Herod was not taking any chances with Peter. So Peter is asleep. There are two guards in the room with him. He was chained, probably to the wall, if not to the guards themselves. And outside of the door were two other guards guarding the door of the prison. Okay, and so the prison, it wasn't going to be a light door either, made of iron or some other type of metal. So it was serious. Like, they were taking him seriously. They were not letting him go. There was no physical way he could escape on his own. "And behold, an angel of the Lord stood next to him, and a light shone in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him, saying, 'Get up, quickly!' And the chains fell off his hands. And the angel said to him, 'Dress yourself and put on your sandals.' And he did so. And he said to him, 'Wrap your cloak around you and follow me.' And he went out and followed him. He did not know that what was being done by the angel was real, but thought he was seeing a vision. When they had passed the first and second guard, they came to the iron gate leading into the city. It opened for them of its own accord, and they went out and went along one street, and immediately the angel left him. When Peter came to himself, he said, 'Now I am sure that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from the hand of Herod and from all that the Jewish people were expecting.'" Neither Herod nor the guards had reckoned that divine intervention, and presumably nothing less than that, would release Peter from prison. But that's what happened. In fact, Peter himself, at first, didn't even believe it was actually happening to him. Peter himself even thought that he was just having a vision. Have you guys ever had that moment, like, where you've had a dream and it just felt way too real? Yeah? I've had those. Have you ever had a dream that, like, or something happened that you thought was a dream, but it was real?
Yes.
Yes?
I passed out at Buc-ee's.
You passed out at
And let me
Buc-ee's?
tell you, I thought it was a dream.
Did you, like, just get too excited over just being in Buc-ee's, or what?
I pulled Buc-ee's floor, and I realized that, no, this is real life. So,
It was crazy.
it was crazy.
How did you, I gotta hear the story. How did you pass out in Buc-ee's?
I went to the emergency room.
Like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, like a month ago.
Wow.
Not even.
Whoa.
Like
I
she
was fine.
fainted? Like she fainted?
Yeah,
It was crazy.
Low blood sugar or what?
I don't know. They said I was fine.
They said you were fine.
So you went to the doctor and said you were fine?
And they're like, it's fine.
So, like, were y'all, like, walking around Buc-ee's?
They did like a CAT scan on me.
Okay, y'all gotta give us some more details.
Yeah, for real.
We were standing, we had our snacks, and we were waiting for our dad to get whatever, and then Faith looks at me and she goes, I can't see anything. And I was
Yeah.
like, you can't, what? And then she was like, yeah, like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and sit down. And I was like, okay. And then she goes, I can't walk to the bathroom, can you take me to the bathroom? And I was like, okay, sure. And she made me carry all her snacks, so my right arm is full, like, of all our snacks right here, and then my left arm is, like, holding Faith. And then we're walking to the bathroom, and then she starts going limp. And I'm only holding her with one arm. So she starts falling, and, like, I can't grab her, and I don't want to spill Dad's, like, unsweet tea on her, so she just falls. And then
She
so
just
this
falls.
random guy comes up to us and was like, do you need help? And I was like, yeah, can you go get our dad? And then I point to him, and then he go gets the dad, and then he comes over, and we all just kind of stand over Faith. And then we realized that there have been Buc-ee employees near us for like the past 5 minutes, just not doing anything or saying anything. And we're like, do you need something? And they're like, yeah, we need your names for witnesses. They just wanted to do paperwork. They brought us water. That was all
I
that
got
happened.
free water.
I got free water, which
Busted
should
my
be free
lip, but that
anyways.
was fine.
Did you fall
Wow.
forward or
My lip is almost healed.
Forward.
She fell forward?
Yeah,
Your lip is almost sealed?
Yeah,
Busted your lip?
I did.
Oh.
it was bad too.
I didn't need stitches though, so
Yeah.
that was
And you went to
busted.
the doctor and they said there was nothing wrong with you?
They didn't know.
Did you tell them that I don't normally stay on the floor at Buc-ee's for a while? I know
Right.
it's clean,
I
but it's
don't-
not that clean.
I don't normally check the floor that
Yeah, it's
closely.
like, well, then it fell down.
At one point, she was just like walking into a podium, like it was like a sim when like they don't know where to go and they're just like walking.
But you had no vision? You couldn't-
Yeah, it like I 1 minute I was fine and the next my vision went white. I couldn't see anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And you had your eyes open.
Yeah, I was like blinking and I was like, it's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, and then they said, oh, you okay? Go home.
Yeah,
Really? Okay.
it was crazy.
That is crazy.
I believe I met Buc-ee that day.
Wait a minute.
You what?
I believe I met Buc-ee that day.
You believe you met Buc-ee that day?
He's out front. Y'all don't see him. There's a lady at Buc-ee's that won't talk to me. And I take pictures, and she won't talk to me. And I love her. She's in uniform, and I talk to her, but she won't talk back to me. I got pictures.
She's a
I got pictures.
You got pictures?
Yeah.
I think you need to
sent
talk.
them
I think you need to talk to
Sarah
our
all the
manager.
time. I said, Sarah, why does this lady not talk to me?
Imagine being someone at Buc-ee's and seeing like Mr. Neil just take pictures of the mannequins.
Yeah, but
I feel like
Exactly.
Michelle's in
I
the
feel
picture.
like around here.
Michelle's in the picture too, and they won't talk to Michelle.
I feel like around here, like if you see that, you just kind of like keep walking, like, oh well, they're almost to Austin, you know, kind of thing, kind of attitude.
No, you know it's like the locals. They're like, okay, it's
Yeah.
Bastrop.
It's just Bastrop.
That's just Jay.
That's just Jay. That's just Mr. J. That's what you're gonna become, Jay. You're just gonna become. Oh, that's just Mr. Neil. He
Oh,
just.
I got stories about that. That's true stories. But so So have you ever fainted before faith?
No.
It must be blood sugar or something, I would imagine.
I don't know.
Let's all talk about
They gave me
faith.
orange juice. Well, they said I couldn't have any citrus drinks because of my lip, and then they gave me orange juice and they drink it, and it stung my lip. So really, they hurt me more than they helped me.
That makes no sense. You can't have citrus drink. Here, drink this orange juice.
Logic.
But it's got something to do with blood sugar, right? I mean, that's why they give you drinks.
I'm fine now.
Well, glad you're fine now. That's
Really,
crazy.
it's,
Remind me not to go with you to Buc-ee's.
yeah.
We've been since.
We've been.
Oh, did you pass out again?
No.
No, I'm fine. You gotta conquer your fear.
You didn't like lock your knees too long or something?
No.
No.
That was crazy back then.
It's crazy.
Just crazy.
I have no idea.
Well, it's not normal for you to pass out. Buc-ee's.
I know it's not normal.
That's not like, I mean, I've been to Buc-ee's a lot of times. There's not a lot of people on the ground. I mean, honestly, I've been there a lot of times. The bathrooms are clean, but they're not that clean. I mean, let's be upfront, okay? A little dude's wiping down, but I don't know if it's clean enough at all.
So what we see is that Peter had like this like out of body experience. I mean, he didn't pass out in Buc-ee's. Yeah. Segue. Let's-
I just answered his question. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. You did fine. It was, yeah. It was everybody else that got us off topic. Anyways, so Peter had this like out of body experience where he really thought like whatever was happening to him, he thought that it was just a vision. He thought that it was a dream, but it turned out to be real. What we see is that God had performed this miracle of setting Peter free, and it like from physical chains, and God performs the same miracle by setting us free from our spiritual chains, those sins that hold us back, those sins that keep us tethered to our old selves. Jesus' company has broken those chains. And so what we need to ask ourselves is, are we walking in his freedom? Or do we approach it as a, well, this is too good to be true type of thinking? And so we see that the church prayed and Peter was set free. Which is like just awesome. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever had like someone pray for you. But there are times where like you can feel when someone's like praying for you. And it feels like it feels different. It does. And so Peter has this amazing experience where an angel comes to Peter and it taps him on the side, wakes him up, and says, let's get out of here. And the chains fall off and they walk through the front gate and leave. And it was after all of that Peter's like, I know the Lord has sent an angel and rescued me from the hand of Herod. And so after this happens, like Peter praises God. It's like, I know that this was you, God. And that's something else that we need to remember ourselves too, is, you know, when these things happen, we need to remind ourselves, like, this wasn't anything that we did. It was God in our lives. It was God that did these things. And so now we're going to wrap it up. We're reading 12 through 17. It says, when he realized this, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose name was Mark, where many were gathered together and were praying. And when he knocked at the door of the gateway, a servant girl named Rhoda came to answer. Recognizing Peter's voice, in her joy, she did not open the gate, but ran in and reported that Peter was standing at the gate. They said to her, "You're out of your mind." But she kept insisting that it was so, and they kept saying, "It is his angel." But Peter continued knocking, and when they opened, they saw him and were amazed. But motioning to them with his hand to be silent, he described to them how the Lord had brought him out of the prison. And he said, "Tell these things to James and to the brothers." Then he departed and went to another place. So Peter gets out of prison, and he goes to these other disciples. He goes to this house, and he knocks on the door. And the servant girl goes and is like, "Who's there?" Probably something like that. And he's like, "It's Peter." And she doesn't even open the door for him. Like, she just goes and tells everybody. She's like, "Hey, Peter's here." And they're like, "No, he's not." And this whole time, like, Peter's standing out there like, it's taking so long. Like, have you ever guys, like, stood at a door and just been like you just, like you knock and then, like, you just stand there and wait and, like, nobody's coming. Okay, and Peter keeps knocking and knocking, and they're like, "No, it's his angel. Like, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. It can't be Peter. Peter is in prison." And so finally, like, I guess this Rhoda girl, like, she was just insistent and a little bit annoying maybe, where they were like, "Fine, we'll go check the door." And they go and check the door and they see that it is actually Peter. And he's like, "Shush, like, keep it down. Go and tell what has happened to me. Go tell it to James and the other brothers." And he says, "Go and tell James and the other disciples." This shows that Peter doesn't know the fate of James yet. He hasn't heard. He probably knew that James was captured by Herod, but he did not know the full extent of James's fate at this point. And so Peter probably rightfully assumed that, well, if God set me free, then he set James free. So go and tell James what has happened and tell the other brothers, tell the other disciples. And then he leaves. Who do you tell first? Who's the first person you tell when something good happens in your life? Like a best friend? Okay, so like, you get great news, Veronica. Who's the first person you text or call?
Oh shit! I tell like all my friends about it. Like my best friend.
You tell your best friend? Okay. Anybody else? Who do you tell? Like, something great happens in your life, who do you tell first?
My mom.
Your mom? Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else, like, tell somebody other than, like, their best friend or their mom? You don't tell your dads anything? No?
No, because Faith was laid on the ground and we couldn't find Greg. Where's Greg? And why were you carrying his drink? He can't carry his own drink?
Because he went, "Go get me an unsweet tea." And I said, "Okay." And then I'm carrying Faith. And I know for a fact Faith is going to be so mad at me if I spill an entire unsweet tea on her while she's passed out on the floor of Buc-ee's. So I say, "Okay, let her fall." Actually, that's not true.
Okay, let her fall. Okay, but yeah, I mean, typically that's who we want to tell. It's family and close friends. When something great happens, that's who we want to tell. Family and close friends. Do you guys go to the same people when you're in danger? Veronica, I handle it myself.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Like, if you're in danger or you're in trouble of some kind, do you go to your parents or your like family or close friends? Yeah? Veronica, you take care of yourself?
Yeah, so I understood.
Really?
For Peter, what we see is that those people, that family and close friends that he had, those were people that were in the church. They were people that were a part of the church. They were his church family. He had just experienced a miraculous release from prison, and the first place he goes is to the house of Mary, who was the mother of John Mark. And so he turned to his church to share what God has done. He went to his church family and told them what God had done in his life. What can we do as a youth group to be a safe place and refuge for each other when someone is in need? What can we do? Y'all don't have any thoughts, any ideas? Thinking? Say the question again. Someone from Cedar Creek or someone from Bastrop. Someone y'all's age. They need a safe place to go. How do we make this youth group a safe place for them to go? What can we do to make this a safe place for them to go? When they're in times of trouble, when they're in times of crisis, when they're in times of need, what can we do to make this a safe place for them to come?
Help them with their needs, like if they need a place to stay, try and the rest of them stuff, offer a place to stay, they need food, clothes,
Yeah.
meet their needs.
Meet their needs. Meet them where they are. Be a friend to someone who maybe doesn't have friends. Like there are ways that we can take this youth group and make it a safe place for those to come to, for those in need to come when they need to. And so I want you guys to be thinking, like, because when we think about how we can make this a safe place for other people to come to, what we're going to see is that we're going to affect further outside of our area. And what we're going to see is we're going to see this youth group really grow. And when the youth group really grows, more people get to hear about the awesomeness of God. For both good times and bad times, our goal should be to create a culture where our church family are the go-to people in our lives. Creating a culture of love, dependability, loyalty, and care makes our place a refuge, makes our church a place of refuge for spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Like, I don't know about y'all, but it's kind of good to like walk in these doors and kind of leave the stresses of everything that's happening around the world behind a little bit and be able to just focus on being in the presence of God. Being able to share God's word with you guys this morning. How can trusting in God motivate you to pray more? Because if we're honest with ourselves, and I'll hear this all the time, is I pray, but I don't pray as often as I feel like I should. And so how can trusting in God's providence motivate us to pray more?
If you start trusting him more, there are going to be more things that you feel comfortable telling him.
Yes, absolutely. If we believe God is powerful, sovereign, pray to a God that's weak. Why pray to a God who isn't in control? That's why God is in control. We're motivated to pray more. When we believe that we can trust him with everything that we've done of that, then it should motivate us to pray more. God is a God who is great, good, and that makes him a God worth praying to. That makes him to you. Because let's be honest, I don't want to bother him with the little things. Or God doesn't want to hear me ask for forgiveness for the 7,000th time. But if we remember that God is open to us, God is all, how does that change your prayer life? I just want you guys to think on that. We see that there are times that God doesn't answer a prayer like we would hope. I had a professor tell me, and they went to a hospital at one point, and this lady was like, heal her, and he said immediately. And so he comes back to the States, and he's serving in his church, and so for God to heal her, and she passes away. And he said he was sick, got upset with God, and I prayed to him, and I asked him, I said, God, why didn't you? And he said that he healed. Where our trust in God will be tested. You remember that trusting in God is knowing that He is faithful and will prevail in the end. People. And it releases us of our, okay, well, since God is, and doing X, Y, Z is good, then God must do X, Y, Z. God will do X, Y, Z, but it will look differently than what we think. You know, God, why couldn't you do this? Dare we tell the sovereign God, why couldn't you do it right? I think this past year has been proof of that enough. So what are some practical steps? I want you guys to think about this. What are some practical are they doing as Jesus says, and as don't pray on the street corners, but pray maybe the answer for you. But that in order to develop a deeper prayer life, you have steps you can take personally. Maybe for someone maybe for someone else it is school. So what are some steps that you can take this week to do? And then also prayer to action. And that's our lesson this morning. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. Reminders: we will be meeting here Wednesday night for about, you will have deposit due for camp. You can use, all right. Use student accounts for that. Mission service Sunday, May 23rd. All right, that's what we have coming up immediately. So at this time, we'll go around. We'll do prayer requests, and then we'll close in prayer. Faith, do you have any prayer requests? Julia, Ben, Leon, and Kylie. All right. Sanctuary, Father God, we come before you this morning. God, we thank you that we can trust in you, in your great name, in your powerful